Have you ever wondered how Canadian politics is starting to look a little like the political battles we've seen south of the border? Could the next big Canadian election turn into a fiery, high-stakes clash that mirrors the Trump era in the U.S.? And what role will new players like Mark Carney have in shaping the future? If you're curious about how Canada's political landscape is transforming, what it means for the entire world, then buckle up, because today we are diving deep into it. Before we get started, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest deep dives into the world's biggest stories. Alright, let's get into it. Right now, Pierre Poilievre is not just a name floating around Ottawa. He's a political powerhouse gathering momentum like a freight train. As the leader of Canada's Conservative Party, Poilievre has carved a fiery path by channeling deep voter frustrations about inflation, housing prices, and government overreach. In a world still reeling from pandemic shocks, economic instability, and global uncertainty, Poilievre's message of freedom and taking back control has found fertile ground. He's positioning himself as the man who will cut government bureaucracy, slash carbon taxes, and restore what he calls the common-sense values of everyday Canadians. Think about this. Polls have repeatedly shown that Poilievre's approval ratings among conservative voters are sky-high, and he is now seen as a legitimate contender to take down Justin Trudeau's Liberal stronghold in the next election. His approach is refreshingly direct for some and alarmingly populist for others. But one thing's for sure, Pierre Poilievre is rewriting the playbook on how to run a modern Canadian campaign. Poilievre's strategy is capitalizing on populist anger, using social media to bypass traditional news outlets, and presenting himself as the champion of the people against a corrupt elite. Just like Trump, Poilievre often frames the government as an enemy to personal freedom and economic success. He's openly challenged the media, calling out what he sees as bias, and he's appealed to a base that feels ignored and betrayed by established institutions. During the Freedom Convoy protests, which paralyzed Ottawa for weeks, Poilievre stood firmly with the demonstrators, framing their actions as legitimate resistance against government overreach. His rhetoric is sharp, his attacks relentless, and his disdain for the political establishment palpable. Whether you see this as a bold correction or a dangerous demagoguery depends on where you stand. But it's undeniable that the tone of Canadian politics has shifted dramatically under Poilievre's influence. But every political story needs a foil, right? Enter Mark Carney, man with a resume so impressive it almost reads like a movie script. Former governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, Carney has spent years navigating the stormy waters of international finance. He's a global figure who has tackled everything from climate change policy to financial regulation. And now he's being courted as the potential liberal savior who could stand toe-to-toe with Poilievre. Carney has hinted at political ambitions before, but now, more than ever, the Liberal Party is buzzing with speculation that he might officially enter the fray. He represents the polar opposite of Poilievre.com, experienced internationalist, and deeply embedded in the kind of institutions that populist movements love to criticize. If Carney does step forward, the next Canadian election won't just be a political battle, it will be a clash of visions about what Canada's future should look like in a rapidly changing world. Now, where does Justin Trudeau fit into all of this? After nearly a decade in power, Trudeau's once shiny image has taken some heavy blows. His handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, a series of political scandals, and growing dissatisfaction with housing affordability have eroded his base. According to a recent Abacus data poll, only about 31% of Canadians currently approve of Trudeau's performance, down sharply from the 2015 wave of optimism that first swept him into office. Many Liberal insiders are quietly acknowledging that if Trudeau wants to keep the Conservatives at bay, the party might need a fresh face, or at least a major strategic pivot. That's where figures like Carney come in, Trudeau's brand of progressive politics. Once seen as youthful and dynamic, he's now, to some voters, starting to feel tired and out of touch. The next election could very well be a referendum not just on Trudeau's leadership, but on whether Canadians want to continue down a path of incremental progressive change or take a hard swing toward Poilievre's radical new vision. This isn't just about which party wins. It's about what kind of country Canada wants to be. The stakes are massive. On the one hand, you have Poilievre's vision of a leaner, less regulated government, more personal freedoms, lower taxes, and a massive rollback of climate policies, like the carbon tax. On the other, you have the Liberals potentially led by Carney offering a vision of strong public institutions, aggressive action on climate change, and a belief in the global system. This battle isn't happening in a vacuum. Around the world, democracies are grappling with polarization, disinformation, and rising populism. In fact, a 2022 Edelman Trust Barometer survey showed that 64% of Canadians believe that the country is more divided than ever. How Canada chooses to navigate this moment will send ripples far beyond its borders, affecting everything from economic policies to climate strategies to its very role on the world stage. A huge part of this upcoming showdown will play out in the media and not just in traditional formats. Poilievre has already proven to be a master of new media, amassing millions of views on YouTube and TikTok by speaking directly to younger voters in simple, punchy videos. He avoids mainstream media interviews whenever he can, preferring to craft his own narrative. Meanwhile, Liberal strategists are scrambling to adapt, realizing that the old playbook of press conferences and newspaper editorials simply isn't enough anymore. In 2025, winning hearts and minds will require winning the algorithm, not just the evening news. This digital battleground will reward authenticity, speed, and emotional resonance qualities that Poilievre has so far wielded far more effectively than his Liberal counterparts. And what about ordinary Canadians? The latest surveys paint a fascinating, if complicated, picture. A poll by Ipsos found that about 54% of Canadians believe the country is headed in the wrong direction. Housing affordability is a top concern, with a staggering 85% of millennials saying they believe they'll never be able to afford a home without financial help. These economic fears are powerful fuel for populist movements, and Poilievre is tapping into them with laser precision. Yet at the same time, a large portion of Canadians remain wary of extreme political shifts. Many voters are craving change, but cautious change. This tug-of-war between anger and caution will be one of the defining tensions of the next election cycle. If Mark Carney decides to run, he faces enormous challenges. Despite his incredible credentials, he's never run for elected office before. Politics isn't like managing a central bank. It's messy, emotional, and brutally personal. He will need to connect with voters on a visceral level, not just an intellectual one. Carney's globalist, technocratic image could be a liability among voters who are increasingly skeptical of elites. He'll need to prove that he's not just another ivory tower expert, but someone who genuinely understands the day-to-day struggles of average Canadians. It's a tough balancing act, but if he pulls it off, he could emerge as a once-in-a-generation leader who redefines what progressive politics looks like in Canada. One thing is clear: Canada is learning some hard lessons from the United States. Polarization doesn't just happen overnight, creeps in fueled by economic anxieties, social media echo chambers, and leaders who stoke division. Once entrenched, it's incredibly difficult to reverse. The rise of figures like Donald Trump showed just how quickly a political system can be upended. Canadian leaders and Canadian voters are keenly aware of this. But knowing the dangers doesn't necessarily mean avoiding them. If anything, the current political climate suggests that Canada may be headed for its own version of the populist upheavals that have reshaped so many democracies around the world. So what's next for Canada? Over the next year, we'll see intense jockeying within both the Liberal and Conservative camps. Trudeau may try to reinvent himself, or he may step aside for a new leader like Carney. Poilievre will continue to sharpen his attacks and rally his growing base. Meanwhile, everyday Canadians will have to sift through a flood of information and misinformation to decide what kind of country they want to live in. The 2025 election won't just be about policies or party loyalty. It will be about national identity, values, and the soul of the country. And as always, the most important voice in this epic battle will be yours, the voter. Wow, what a wild ride ahead, right? Canada's next election could be one of the most pivotal moments in its modern history, and we're going to be right here, breaking it all down for you. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. Next, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, stay awesome. See you next time.